Today we are going to be talking about Avengers Infinity War, so stay tuned.
Welcome to The Real Review.
Welcome to The Real Review, sponsored by Parametric and Lazy Ape Studios, where you get some of the latest happenings, real thoughts, and perspectives in the world of film and television. Everybody, I am here with Joel Bubbles Cunningham.
It's nice.
Yeah, it is nice, right?
I can't elaborate right now, but it is nice. Yeah.
Who am I today?
Actually, that was maybe the one circumstance where bubbles were bad. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. So, yeah. I am here with Matt. It was the only way. Hey.
Oh.
Which I also can't be elaborated upon.
Yeah, all right.
In our spoiler talk.
Yes, we're going to be talking about Avengers Infinity War today, obviously, but and we'll do a spoiler section at the end, but for right now, just to kind of welcome to the podcast.
Hey.
Welcome to the show, the vidcast, if you're watching. Just to give you a concept, just kind of a reminder how this works. You have Joel, who's a little bit more analytical, maybe negative, nitpicky, and into the details, and then you have me, who's maybe a little bit more emotionally unstable and very positive and optimistic about everything, even if it doesn't make sense. I'll overlook a lot of things sometimes, but then we like to kind of blend those two together.
Yeah.
And as we have been stating recently, we're all just learning this together. So you're coming along for the journey with us.
Yes, sir.
And it's going to be an experience. But
I was going to respond to that, my being the negative guy, but in a negative way. And I was like, now I'm just promoting that idea.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what happens. That's what negative people do, Joel. Anyways.
It's true. It's true. I can't deny it.
So, Joel, why don't you tell us in a very positive way how people can get connected with us?
How do I do this positively?
Yes.
Maybe if I go like this.
Yes,
and I
talk about
like, like Krog. There you go. Yeah. So we have some ways to get connected. We have our website, which is realreviewmedia.com. We also have our Facebook, which is facebook.com/realreviewmedia. I want to remind everybody again, it's always spelled REEL with two E's, like a real. And we also have our Twitter and our Instagram, which are both at Real Review Media. And also email. People want to email us. Yeah, they can definitely do so. They can email us at realreviewmedia@gmail.com. And I'd love to hear people's perspectives on the film.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that are going to it 2, 3, multiple. They've had a huge... They haven't even opened in China yet.
Yeah.
And they've already made bonkers money.
$603 million.
Yeah,
worldwide.
I think they're going to kill it more than Star Wars.
At $258 million opening weekend, it already holds a new record.
Yeah, there you go. So,
it's craziness.
Crazy.
And with that, let's just dive into the synopsis of it. And this is one of the most, if not the most anticipated films of the entire year.
One of the most anticipated of my life, to be honest. It sounds ridiculous. 10 years,
for sure.
It's almost sad that a sequel is the most anticipated film of my life, but at the same time, we're talking about a decade's worth of film.
It's well earned.
It is well earned.
Yes.
And I think everybody can appreciate, even if you're not huge Marvel fans, the significance of that aspect.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly. And again, just to kind of do what we typically do, let me just break it down synopsis. If you're following Avengers Infinity War, watching this, imagine you have an idea of kind of what's going on, but just in case you're not, Avengers Infinity War, the Avengers and their alleys, the Avengers and their allies must be willing to sacrifice all in an attempt to defeat the powerful Thanos before his blitz of devastation and ruin puts an end to the universe. So it's basically the Avengers versus Thanos, directed by Anthony and Joe Russo.
The Russo brothers.
The Russo bros, which have
Part 1.
They have a great track record so far. I'll say that much. Starring all of your favorite people: Robert Downey Jr., Chris Hemsworth, Mark Ruffalo, Chris Evans, Scarlett Johansson, Don Cheadle, Benedict Cumberbatch, Tom Holland, Chadwick Boseman, Zoe Saldana, Karen Gillan, Tom Hiddleston, Paul Bettany, Elizabeth Olsen, Anthony Mackie, Star-Lord Chris Pratt himself, and a bunch of other people.
And anyone you can imagine.
Exactly. And let me just say here that this movie I was very much looking forward to, and I was like hyped out of my mind to see it. And just right off the bat, I wanted to let you know that I had it meet my expectations.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay. That's good to know.
Yes.
If that's based upon where we were at when we last talked about, coming soon.
Met and maybe exceeded in some areas, but I was really, really excited about this movie, and I felt like it met it in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
And surprised me in a lot of different ways as well.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about some stuff at the end here in a spoiler section. There's going to be some elements that we have to kind of dance around in this first part.
For sure.
But yeah, just general thoughts of the movie, Joel.
Overall, there was so many positives to this experience for me. I went in, so I've seen it twice.
Yeah, I've only seen it once.
And I don't always say that it's necessary to see a movie twice to at least be able to review it. This one I felt was very much warranted to see it a second time, not just because of sort of my personal enjoyment of it, but it's 2.5 hours.
Right.
And it's like, I just want to make sure I caught everything.
Yeah.
I saw it opening night at 10 o'clock at night, and it was... I was a little tired, so things were a little fuzzy and didn't have the best seats, but had decent seats. So I went and saw it again and was actually pleasantly surprised by the second time seeing it.
Cool.
That I liked it even more.
Yeah.
And elements that are so significant to the story that are just kind of like, wow, crazy. The first time you see it, they just all come together beautifully.
Yeah.
And I heard somebody talk about this, and I think it's very true. It's not an attack against the movie, but it's almost like a series of B plots.
Yeah.
That all come together to make a really good A plot.
Right.
It's a bunch of mini adventures from all these characters that all really inform and move towards the same story.
Right.
And we've seen that done poorly in examples like Justice League.
Sure.
Whereas this is done well, and it informs everything. And it not only did that, but it simultaneously, in a good way, it kept me guessing and kept me feeling like, well, this is not like what I would expect from Marvel.
Right.
Wow, even the depth that they went to with Thanos, who is the main bad guy of the film. He was such a hateable, lovable, you kind of not lovable, but you understood where he was coming from. You connected with where he's coming from, even though you thought he was insane and he was bonkers and he was doing horrible things. You were like, wow, he's somebody I can connect to.
He feels like what he's doing is right.
Right. Whereas most of the Marvel villains have had one layer of depth, and then it's kind of like, I just want to blow up the world for blowing up the world's sake.
Right.
He has a lot of depth and sort of dexterity, I would say, to his character throughout the course of the film. And this film is almost, to me, it's almost more his film.
Yeah, he's front and center most of the movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So those are kind of some brief thoughts. I don't want to get too far into more till you've had a chance to talk
I know,
to.
absolutely. I really, really like this movie. Action, I thought, was spectacular. This, I don't know how the Russo brothers, they keep making some of my more favorite Marvel films. I will say that the stuff that I didn't like about Civil War, the last one they did, was not necessarily their fault, but just the story and where they were going, because I'm a fan of, I'm a fan of people getting along, and Civil War is the opposite of people getting along.
Yeah.
So this movie, though, visually really, really cool.
Yeah.
All the character interactions that you've wanted to see, there are some really, really, really fun ones, interesting ones, some interactions between Thor and Rocket, or Star-Lord and Thor and stuff like that, or Doctor Strange and Tony Stark and stuff like that, and Spider-Man even kind of in the mix of all that stuff. A lot of that stuff was really, really fun to see. But I think just as a whole, I think where this movie succeeds is in its villain, in creating a villain that is, like you were saying, he's not a likable guy, but you understand his perspective, and he's not just a bad guy for bad guy's sake.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing. And it really, they show you in the first 5 minutes why he is a bad dude.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And
they just erase any questions.
Holy cow. And so you're just like, this is going to be a challenge for our Avenger friends. So
yeah,
I just really enjoyed it. I thought from a technical standpoint, the best thing about this is the Russo brothers were able to take so many dang characters. Granted, it wasn't perfect, but I think they did the absolute best that they could do for what they had to fit in this movie. Dang. They had to put all these characters in the movie and try and balance it and try and give everybody their due and get, all this stuff. And And like I said, it's not perfect, but I can't imagine ever trying to take on something like that. That would be insane. And I think they did a really, really good job.
I agree with that. And watching the film, I was almost impressed by how little they were willing to let certain people have screen time, as much as how much they were allowing them to. Because, with a film like this, you've got such big names, such big name actors that have had their own films or have had such big roles in other films. And it's almost like they put somebody on screen and they have like 4 lines of dialogue and then that's it.
Right.
And you're like, wow, but that's a significant character.
Yeah.
So, it's insane that they were willing, because, most other films or something like that, they would be like, well, we have to keep this person on screen for at least this long to be able to do something significant. It's like, and they're just like, nope.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm like, they're kind of removing some of those tropes and ideas of, what Marvel's all about. I mean, it's like in a Marvel film, the very beginning, you set up the stakes and then they're played out over the course of the film. Whereas this one, it's like the stakes of the entire movie are just there and they're constantly rising and the floor's falling out from under you in different ways. And it's just, and it didn't really have like a very standard like 3 or 4 act structure type thing. No. I mean, it clearly builds towards something, but
it's kind of like the lower end of a third act to the higher end of a third act, like the whole movie.
Yeah, exactly. And that's not saying a bad thing, because if you've joined and watched all the Marvel films up until this point, you kind of wanted something like this where it's like a coming together of that story that they've been building with all the characters. And so I just found it really interesting, and I found it really rewarding experience, you know, and I'm like, I'm glad that I was able to be a part of the first part of this.
It's crazy.
And excited for, the second part. I think as far as what my expectations were, I think they were exceeded.
That's awesome.
To be honest, you
were lower than I was.
I was lower, and I always try to be lower because I'd rather be where I'm sitting as the negative guy, and being like, wow, that was much better than I thought.
Right.
So I don't know. There's a lot more things that I can say just in regards to the story, but I'd also love to comment and just say that I loved the cinematography in this film as well.
Yeah, it's a different step for the Russo brothers. I will say that because I know a lot of and that was one of the problems with Civil War I had, is some of the stuff was very much like Infinity War in Civil War.
Yeah.
But there was more like shakiness in like those movies and like Winter Soldier. I love those movies, but this one was very locked in and less shaky, and I love that.
There was a couple good moments of shaky, where things like a big fight's building or somebody's charging against somebody else and it's, shaking, and it's like, okay, that made sense and it fits with it. And then there's other moments where it's locked down and it's these big sweeping grand kind of shots where it's, you're seeing these alien landscapes, and they went to so many places that we'd like never really seen before, only briefly seen. And they were just able to like bring them all in and introduce all of them in such an interesting way and make them all kind of like unique and distinct and interesting. And there's just like 3 or 4 shots where we can't specifically talk about, but they would just open to the shot and I'm like, wow, that's just beautiful. That it's like weird but cool at the same time. And I just really thought it was good. I mean, and even the way that they frame some of the shots with bringing certain people into a frame or out of a frame, with just having them be their character, like in the background. Like I was really concerned about, because you have one guy or 2 guys basically that are handling the characters that have been written from multiple writers and directed by multiple directors. Yeah. How are they going to handle the characterizations? And I'm thinking maybe part of it was maybe the actors. Maybe they like kind of said like, hey, what's something like embrace your character in this moment. I don't know. You've also got Kevin Feige, who's on set, who's kind of, handling and managing that element of it as well, which probably helps.
He's the universal, like, godfather of the whole thing. Yeah.
But, like, there was even a scene, this isn't a spoiler, but, like, there's a scene where they were doing, like, a shot, it was like a close-up of Doctor Strange's hands, and I'd totally forgotten about the fact that, like, in the first movie, he, like, busts his hands up.
You saw the
and
lines.
He gets that, and you see the lines, and you hadn't seen it up until that point. I was like, that's such a detail that I feel like in other directors' hands probably would have been completely missed.
Lost on,
you know, because you're dealing with so much vastness.
That's crazy.
Of characterization and everything like that. And even, I don't want to say who or how or when, but there's a character, we can talk about this in the spoilers, that I don't know. Something happens with their eyes,
Yeah.
which I thought was just like super neat, and it's not who you think it is.
Yeah,
actually, it's not that, but I can't say it. But so yeah, just
It's okay.
Yeah, some of the ways that they managed to keep everything consistent and fitting, the characterizations, the humor was good.
Yep.
It didn't get too overwhelming.
There was a couple times I was like, it was overwhelming, but for the most part, I thought the humor was really excellent. It's a very funny movie.
It is.
But it's a very serious movie, too.
Right.
But I think they were able to, like, not make it too jokey when it needed to be serious, especially in that last third. So
Agreed. And then, what was I going to say? Not just the humor. I don't remember.
the one thing I was going to say was I really liked, especially like maybe the main top 2 or top 3. They're called, what are they called? Like the Dark Knights? No, not the
Dark Knights.
The Dark, whatever.
Oh,
like
the
the
henchmen?
henchmen. The
Yeah.
henchmen. I thought the main one was really cool.
Yeah.
I liked him.
Yeah.
His design. You see him. His name's Ebony Maw.
Yeah.
And you see him in the trailer. You know, he's the one like going like this.
Yeah. He looked freaky. He looked like, what's his name from Lord of the Rings? One of like the
Right.
not Nazgul. He looked like one of the characters from some movie or something. I don't know. I'd seen before. Yeah.
Yeah, Iron Man makes a reference to something else that was pretty funny.
Oh yeah,
him. But, with
the Squidward.
Right, so
I thought that was funny.
With that, I thought that was really good, and like I felt like there wasn't a lot of wasted things, other than, I've heard this a couple of times, and I kind of feel like maybe Drax is kind of like just kind of this like buffoony guy now, like
Yeah,
a little
I
bit.
kind of like that side of Drax. Though,
I like
because
it too,
he's still
but
harsh.
But he hasn't like done his like I'm awesome Drax stuff since
Yeah.
first Guardians, I felt like. But
he kind of did. I mean, I can't say the scene, but there's definitely a scene where you can tell that he's very highly thinking of himself.
Right.
In
but
a moment
nothing,
that's just like,
yeah, nothing
Yeah.
happens. Anyways.
Yeah.
Overall, this movie was just a tremendous film.
So one minor gripe that I kind of had, and people are going to probably hate this or like roast me for it, but I love him as an actor, but I was not a huge fan of Peter Dinklage. I thought his role in this, although funny and clever, I thought what they did with him in the role was clever and funny. There was just something about his character that was very, very flat. And I don't know if you caught that or if that was just
I felt like there wasn't a lot to his personality.
Yeah, it was just like blah, 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 blah. And it was like he kind of started on a high note and then it just kind of very slowly kind of went blah, blah, blah. I don't know.
And there's no context to that too because we haven't really seen him before, you know?
Right.
So
yeah. It was kind of random that he was there. I get it. I thought it was funny. I love Peter Dinklage. I think he's great in most of the roles I've seen him in, but yeah, I probably would have done something a little different there if I had my rathers. But
right.
I'm like, insulting one little aspect, like a speck being
It's
out
nitpicky. It's hard to
giant
find
picture.
anything negative in the grand scope of this movie. It was really, really just a tremendous thing. And there's some of the action stuff was really, really sweet. Like some of the team up
the
stuff.
fights were really good.
There was one like team up towards that last third of the film, like towards the beginning of that last third of the film that I was like, whoa. And there was some like edge of your seat stuff. Like I was sitting there like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? Like I was so nervous.
Yeah.
And I left the movie just, the hashtag I've been seeing all weekend is shook.
Yeah.
You know, and like, just like, I had to take a breath, you know?
It took me a day or so to kind of get out of the fog,
like recover
a little bit. Yeah.
It's crazy.
So we can't talk too much about those elements yet, but definitely a movie for people that are going to be willing to like go into dark areas. I had a hard time explaining it when people asked me what I thought. And I was like, well, it's a good movie, but like, I can't say it's good because it's harsh.
Right. So the big thing you have to realize, and I went with my parents, and if you've been listening to us any amount of time, I am very, very slow to the process of film. This movie took me way longer to process than I feel like a normal movie does because it did there was a lot. Yeah. And I do want to see it again. But my parents hadn't seen all the previous MCU films. Like they hadn't seen Black Panther or Thor Ragnarok. And I feel like those are some potentially like
definitely Ragnarok
important movies.
Definitely.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
exactly.
where this one picks up
and
at.
So I was like, I hope you guys figure it out. But they were like, yeah, we totally got it. And I was like, oh, okay. And I would like equate this, and I told this to them. This is the season finale of the first 18 episodes, or 19 if you count it, of the MCU. This is the season finale, if you want to look at it like that, or the season 3 finale of the phase 3, whatever. And so you don't need character development because you've already had it. And the New Yorker.
Yeah, if you want something funny, read the Mashable article about the New Yorker article. It's funny.
So you don't need to have all the characters introduced to you and learn more about all of their individual backstories because you got that in other films. So it makes this perfect. You don't have to waste time on it because you got a ton to fit into this thing. But unless there's anything else that you feel like you want to add, is there anything else kind of off the top of your head?
No. Cinematography great, acting for the most part outside of Peter Dinklage great, story great, plot great.
Josh Brolin, give him credit too.
Josh Brolin, amazing job.
Yeah.
I'm sure mocap. I mean, the visual effects. There was like 3 or 4 shots that were like at times a little bit wonky kind of to me, but wasn't distractingly bad for the most part. Just rock solid on it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it was really, really good. I want to hear it. What's your?
I'm giving it a 95.
Woo!
So, there
95. Is that the highest you've given a movie on this show?
It
I
might
think
be.
it has.
It might
because
be.
I think you gave Logan a 94 or 95 too.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it was. Anyways,
yeah,
that's awesome. I'm right up there. I'm at a 90, 94, 95. I'm undecided. I just gave it an A.
Yeah. I think the second viewing is really what locked it in. For
Really?
me. It's insane to me when I can watch a movie and literally go like, I can't figure out anything that I can really, besides like Peter Dinklage, and like, what could I really say that you need to do a lot better?
This is a tremendous thing. It's just, this is not just a really great movie, but it's really something unprecedented in the world of film where you have such an amazing 10-year run of something that has changed the landscape of film and creating a shared universe that it has been, there have been many attempts to copy. And everything that has attempted to copy this format has failed.
DC.
Yes, has failed largely. And
Monster Universe.
And it's not like the Avengers, or not the Avengers, like the MCU has started off great and then got worse, or started off bad and got better. They've really refined their process. It's been a really solid thing. And to end it, they haven't ended it, but to put this 10-year cap on with this movie is fantastic.
Yeah. The way that I compare it is like comic books kind of go through they'll launch comic book series and run them all the way through a story arc and stories, and then they'll end them, and then they'll reboot them, they'll start them over again. And I don't necessarily think they're going to be like rebooting characters, but this is definitely kind of like the end of like a major chunk of art in this like arc. Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah, awesome. 95s, 94s, all the way around. I'm going to see it again. And super exciting. Also, before we get into the spoilers as well, it's going to be important that you stay for after the credits.
Uh-oh.
I think it's going to be important.
Oh, is it?
It is, Joel.
Okay. You mean after our credits? Or
No, after the credits of the film. Roll credits.
Just kidding. Totally kidding, folks.
I think it's gonna be
we don't have an after credit scene.
Stay after the credits of this film. It's not just like some throwaway thing. I actually think it's very relevant and important. And so do that.
I think it's one of those things.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it. Yeah, let's talk about it. Spoilers.
So let's get into spoilers. If you haven't seen Avengers Infinity War, turn it off, pause, whatever. Come back later once you have. And we're going to spoil the heck out of this thing. So if you end up hearing any spoilers, it's your own fault. But anyways, let's get into this thing. We're going to get into spoilers in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Everyone dies.
Everyone dies.
It's like not quite everyone, but
such a haunting fashion too.
The bad guy wins.
Yeah,
that's really it. Thanos wins,
which is such a break from the Marvel. I mean, that's what I felt like they needed in Ultron.
Yeah,
was for it to be a 2-part thing where Ultron actually kind of succeeds in the first half. They needed that. Like you need a bad guy that wins on occasion. Otherwise, it feels like the stakes are never going to be there.
Right, because you're just going to get a show where, here's the conflict. It's going to be tough, and then someone figures it out at the end.
Every Marvel movie has been like, you know, the bad person at the end is either killed themselves or been destroyed.
Which is cool, but it's just very formulaic. And this is the first time where you're like, wow, they went there. It was an extremely bold move, and I think it paid off in the best way possible.
Well, and I would say this as well. most movies, it's like that, good and bad, and then good will eventually triumph over evil. Most movies are like that, but this is a superhero movie, which is like the antithesis of that idea of like good versus evil, and you just need some shakeup.
Yeah.
And this was such a kind of shakeup, like a sand thing. I don't know, that just changed a lot of the ideas of kind of what these films could be like.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, maybe we can talk a little bit about some of the deaths and everything like that.
We'll start with because we were talking about the first 5 minutes of this movie. They show you how bad Thanos is.
Yeah. Kills off two main characters.
Yeah, characters have been in several movies.
Yeah.
Loki.
Yep.
And Heimdall.
Yeah. Which Heimdall was rough. Like, even though you kind of like, all right, he's kind of...
He was actually really cool in
cool
Ragnarok.
Guy. Yeah.
In Ragnarok, you're like, dang, you know, but...
Loki, I'm like, they could bring him back. I mean, even if it's not the same actor, he's a god, you know what I mean? They got ways of bringing... They've already brought him back once.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
But still, I don't know. I think he's gone. But
he's gonzo.
Yeah. So the most important thing that I really liked was they threw the Hulk right at Thanos right at the beginning.
Yeah.
And the Hulk got beat down so bad by Thanos that he was so scared and didn't want to come out the rest of the movie.
I think that's what's happening. We haven't really figured it out for sure.
I'm pretty sure that's what's happening.
Yeah.
But then again, they could be something else. But I was like, he's scared.
But he got his butt kicked. Yeah. And Hulk is like a big kid. I mean, he's like an aggressive, like 0 to 100 kid.
Yeah.
He's kind of like, I just want to do what I want to do, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And he throws tantrums and things like that. And it was like he was, in a sense, scared, like a child.
Yeah.
Like he had gotten spanked really badly as a child.
Mark Ruffalo's Bruce Banner's like, come out, Hulk. And he's like, no.
That was actually really funny where he's like trying to get the Hulk to come out. And he's like, just stop talking to me. I'm trying to vote. And we've kind of already seen that, like when we watched Ragnarok, which is a spoiler for Ragnarok as well. But like when he's like, you know what I've been talking, and he jumps out of the plane
and lands on the bridge.
You're expecting
his
like
body's like mangled.
Yeah, exactly. You're expecting like Hulk, and it was kind of like that throughout the course of the movie. I kept expecting Hulk, but he'll be a good character for the next movie because I think what it's really going to build toward, and we're jumping way ahead in the conversation, but like it's really got to build towards them getting the gauntlet back from Thanos because it's all gnarled and everything like that. And I'm thinking that they want to make sure that it shows that there's a limitation on the glove.
Right.
But what they'll probably end up doing is like reversing most of the deaths with the gauntlet. That's what I'm thinking.
I have no idea.
Because there's so many characters that they need for like Guardians 3. I mean, there's...
So I feel like they put it on the shoulders of Captain Marvel to do something, which is going to be interesting.
Right, which is the after credits spoiler for people.
That's the post-credits scene. Nick Fury, before he dissolves away, like half of most of the new Avengers.
Yeah.
He sends like on this old school pager thing to.
Yeah, which after a certain point you kind of go like, well, where have you been? Like, I'm hoping they explain kind of where she's been.
The movie takes place in the 90s, so that's kind of where I'm like confused. So I'm thinking because Captain Marvel that comes out in March, I think, takes place in the 90s.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking there's going to be somehow she does something in the past that helps them in the future somehow.
Yeah.
There's going to be some type of like days of future passing happening. I have no idea, but
yeah, who knows?
Anyways, so that's kind of where that leads. The big thing obviously is Doctor Strange.
I was shocked that they got rid of Doctor Strange, to be honest, but that kind of makes sense. And I really think
the Doctor Strange, Black Panther, Spider-Man, Scarlet Witch, Falcon, Winter Soldier.
Yeah. So the line that I said at the beginning, it was the only way, like, I didn't catch it as strongly in the first time as I did in the second time. I really think that was Doctor Strange saying that it was the only way to stop Thanos.
Right. I think that was part of the 1 in 14 million.
Exactly. Because he knows the only way to beat him. And so why would he not have told everybody? Or the only reason he wouldn't have told everybody is that it would have ruined it.
Right.
Like he needed to do things a certain way in order for that 1 out of 14 million potential opportunities to win.
I think it points to he knew that Iron Man needed to be alive.
Yeah.
Because he gave that monologue, I'm going to protect the stone before I save Spider-Man or you.
Yeah.
And he was like, don't kill Iron Man. I'll give you the stone.
Yeah.
And that's got to be it. And I think that's setting up for an Iron Man sacrifice in the next Avengers movie next year.
Potential sacrifice.
Potentially
something.
even with Captain. I don't know what's going to happen with that. But,
who knows?
Bearded Captain, when he showed up on screen, everybody in the theater was like, yeah, it was awesome. It was really, really cool.
I was expecting him to show up there, but
he was awesome.
Yeah.
He was really cool.
He was really cool. I thought a lot of there was cool little touches of, some of the relationships. It was interesting to see, Black Widow interacting with Hulk again for 3 seconds, which you kind of maybe wish they'd gotten a little bit more, but that might happen in the second movie. They're both still alive. So we might get more of that. And then that's kind of the other thing that I thought is like there were some elements that I wanted to maybe a little bit more of in this film.
Right.
That's not a bad thing. As long as the movie's good enough, I feel like the second movie will add in and play because they got to leave things around.
Like I said, I think there's so much. I would have wanted to see some more things too, but I think in an almost 2 hour and 40-minute movie, I think they did the best they could.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and I was waiting for Samuel L. Jackson to cameo, and I was like, "Oh, there he is!" I actually said it. I was like, "That's weird. We didn't get Samuel L. Jackson anywhere in that." I would have thought because he made a cameo recently in one of the other movies, and I was like, "Oh, he's kind of popping up again." Then
I was so
Red Skull was the most random. Like I was like, "What? Yeah. Red Skull? Like where has he been?"
And that scene too with Thanos and Gamora was very heartbreaking.
That was such a tough scene.
Oh man.
Yeah, that's one of those moments again that you see Thanos for more than just a henchman, henchman, but like a baddie. He understand that this guy really legitimately so messed up in his head that he thinks that what he's doing is worth the sacrifice that he's making here. And the way that he even like grabbed her arm was so reminiscent of like a father like dragging or like bringing along a kid.
Yeah.
And the way that was it was so emotive, and I was just like, oh, it's so dark.
Yeah.
And then they did something so unMarvel like, which is they gave you that moment at the end where he's standing in that empty like orange open vast thing with her as a child, and it's like so contemplative, and I'm like, wow, this is Marvel.
What
like,
did that cost you?
They're giving me moments of like impact and significance, and sorry, what were you gonna say?
It was crazy. I was just gonna say my one of my favorite things in the movie, I thought Thor was great in this movie.
Oh yeah.
And his new weapon is super cool. When he shows up to like save the day in Wakanda, I was like, dang, he's like just taking everybody out. Even, oh my gosh, his interactions with Rocket, when he kept calling him Rabbit the whole time.
Oh, that was hilarious,
so funny.
All the Guardian stuff was great for the most part.
Good.
Yeah, even the way that the progress between the relationship between Gamora and Star-Lord happened, which hopefully she comes back, but I don't know.
I don't know, man.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. I was so conflicted in that moment where Star-Lord basically, quote unquote, ruins the plan.
Yeah.
I was like so mad at him.
He made a mistake. I mean, very much so.
But like to the fact where I was like, don't, Star-Lord, you don't do this. And he did it. I was like, dang it, they're 2 seconds away from getting the glove off his hand.
Absolutely, yeah.
I was freaking out. I was like, no, I was dying inside a little bit. I was like, dang it. And gosh. And he's just he's so immature basically. He basically wasn't raised to be an adult after he left Earth originally. And so I understand his immaturity, but come on.
He's just he's an immature guy that had what he loved taken from him, and he just lashed out. But it made sense. I was angry about it too. I was like, you 1 second, like literally you could just wait a couple more seconds. But that was such a good scene. I mean, it showed you, because that was the interesting thing about the character was he was defeatable. He was still, he could make mistakes. He wasn't perfect, Thanos.
Yeah. Their plan was super rockin' awesome until he screwed it up.
Exactly. Like it showed that he was defeatable. And then even at the end when then it made sense, because if they hadn't showed that he was able to be injured, that he was able to be like hurt by different things, it would have been so random for Loki at the very end to just be able to like kill him or like really harm him like he did. Yeah, Thanos. Yeah, for Loki to hurt, for I can't think of Thor to hurt Thanos.
Yep.
Yeah, that's why I was getting it wrong. Yeah. He wouldn't have made sense if you hadn't set up the fact that you could actually like do some damage to this guy. Yeah. But I was watching the second time too, as he's like activating the different powers to like look at the gems and see like, does that line up with like the power? And every time it did. Yeah.
That's awesome.
It was
I didn't
so
even
crazy.
notice that.
You have to think about it like a little bit sometimes to make sense of it. But like even when he blows up the planet, he uses like the power stone to like blow up the planet. And then he uses the blue, which is like the space stone to like port the rocks, because the first time I thought he blew up the moon, right?
And that's what Iron Man's
blew it
like,
up.
that's
and then
the last time you throw a moon at me.
Right. Well, the first time I thought he just like yanked down the chunks straight from there, and he did, but he actually teleports the chunks through space because the moon is so far away. And I didn't even see that the first time. And I was like, oh my God. So there's just little things like that that's again crazy, that they just like tie into the movie, and it just makes it so nice.
It was really, really good. And Yeah, I think I kind of I liked it. They didn't explain a lot. I do like that, teenage Groot who did nothing almost until he decided
Yeah.
to sever his arm.
That was a little random, I will say, but I was fine with it.
Right, I was fine too.
Which the question now becomes, though, can anybody lift Thor's hammer thing, axe?
I don't know.
Because nobody could do the hammer before.
Where's the handle?
He was holding it up.
Yeah.
It was, even though he was still attached to it, I guess. But I don't know. I thought that was pretty awesome.
Maybe because it's still in its molten state. I don't know.
Yeah.
Weird.
I don't know. Who knows? But
man, some other things.
Groot was great.
Yeah, Groot was great.
Groot. Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa. I thought that was awesome.
and then Captain America's, I'm Steve Rogers.
Yeah, I'm Steve Rogers. I love the part where Thor's like there on the ship and Star-Lord's like, I talk like this all the time.
Yeah.
She's like, look, he's doing it again, Mantis.
Why are you making your voice deeper?
Yeah, it's just, that was so clever.
What's the
and
eye
funny.
thing that you were talking about?
Okay, so the eye thing, I'm trying to remember the name of the character. Crud. One of the characters' eyes turns red right as he's disintegrating. One of the superheroes at the end, who in another part of the movie, his eyes had actually turned red. In one of the other previous movies, crud, I can't think of it. The other, I thought you were thinking of the eye thing with Thor.
Oh, that was funny.
Which I thought was funny. I can't think.
Yeah, I would have watched that.
You keep talking. I'm gonna try and remember. I'm gonna try and remember which character it was.
Who are you talking about? That's crazy.
Yeah.
Anyways, I thought the humor was just so on point. I loved like Iron Man's little Squidward comment.
Yeah.
Ebony Maw. I was laughing out loud because I was like, it does look like Squidward. That whole fight sequence at the very beginning was really cool, and I can't remember who calls it, but like it may have been Thanos.
It was Star-Lord.
Oh, is eyes turned? Because he's a half a god.
Exactly.
Okay.
And like his dad's eyes, I believe, turned red in Guardians 2, right? When he turned into the god thing, didn't his eyes?
Oh, maybe.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, but like his eyes, like when he was disintegrating, his eyes actually turned red, and I was like, that's such a little thing that you would recognize and add, because he could have just dissolved, but no, he like dissolved and turned into like part of his god form.
I'm actually surprised they didn't like elaborate that anymore. Like, he's half a god. Like, what does that mean as far as his capabilities are concerned?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe it ties into something down the road. I just know that this is definitely a part oneer, but I felt like they
could play into the next movie.
I felt like they contained it well enough in this movie. It's like just such a heartbreaking movie.
Yeah.
At the same time, you're kind of like, well, I kind of see how there's going to be more, because Spider-Man Homecoming 2 comes into production in like a couple months, so.
Well, and
that scene was heartbreaking too, by the way.
Yeah.
Tony and Peter Parker. I was like, oh,
like been like such a father figure to him.
Like, that's harsh.
Yeah, that was
like, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. I'm like, oh, that's so sad.
It was really sad. That one probably teared me up more than all of them, except. No, I think Zoe Saldana's actually
that was
sad.
super sad.
Yeah, when she went out, I think just the relationship that she had with him, like Gamora and Thanos, and like the weird fatherly love but hatred she had from at the same time, was such a complex narrative. Like, that's a film in of itself.
And that last
relationship that they had.
And that last sequence where Thanos is basically walking towards Vision. Scarlet sacrifices the person she loves.
Yeah.
Very dark. And then
to watch him die twice.
Well, the whole way through, Thanos nobody's stopping him.
Yeah.
Nobody's stopping. Everybody's going after him. Everybody's trying. Yeah, Captain America catches his hand, but he's just kind of like, and then punches him. He's
you can see he looks at him. He's like, "Wow, you're actually pretty strong," But then it's just like, nope, knocks him out. Yeah,
and then everybody else just gets ruined, and then makes it. Scarlet Witch she kills the person she loves, and then he's like, nope. He's like, poor lady, I understand where you're coming from. Rewinds time, and then just to kill him again in front of her.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god.
She has to watch. First, she has to kill him, and then she has to watch him being brought back to life and being killed again.
Yeah.
It's like so horrible. Yeah.
Very, very dark.
Yeah. There's just a lot of. It's all the way through. It held my interest and really cool stuff.
I have some questions though. One thing that I want to know is, what happened to Korg? Because he was one of my favorites.
I know.
In
I think
Ragnarok.
he's dead.
I know. I hope
Unless he got out and escaped.
What about Valkyrie?
I don't know what's up with Valkyrie.
Because she was on that ship too, right?
Yeah.
At Ragnarok. Okay, so I know her. I don't know what's going on. We know that Ant-Man and Hawkeye are with their families because they're wanted.
Yeah.
They're on Captain's side in Civil War, so they're wanted by the U.S. or the Sokovia Accords.
I would imagine they're going to make an appearance in the next movie.
I know Ant-Man will be in the next movie.
Right, and I figure Hawkeye will probably show up.
I don't know. They're really keeping that one close to the vest. But
Who knows?
We'll see.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anything, I guess. Anyways, what a fantastic film. A lot of surprises that they just let the bad guy win.
Great way to start our summer movie fest.
Snapped the fingers. Half of the universe is dead.
Yes.
Half. He killed trillions, quadrillions, maybe bajillions more than I could even count. So,
and they end it with that shot of him just
like chilling out in a cabin,
chilling on the
kind
cabin,
of grinning at a sunset or whatever.
And you're just like, this is so sad.
I know.
And it's like, again, you look at him and you're like, I kind of like hate you right now, but you're also like very interesting to me.
Right.
So.
And if anything, that's why I say the post credits I think is important, because the one thing I felt like I didn't get at that point that I was like, oh, I wish I had it, they actually did in the post credit scene was, what are the world ramifications of this? They showed the people in Wakanda disappear. They showed the people on Titan disappear and die.
Right.
But they didn't show anybody in the real world.
Right.
In the post credit scene, you see, there's nobody driving a car. So the car, because they disappeared while driving the car, the car ran into another car. And then a helicopter, the pilot disappeared apparently. So he flew into a building. And then,
that would be calamity everywhere.
Yeah. So it's like, I was like, okay, good. Because we got kind of a taste of what that looked like. And I'm glad that happened.
That eerie silence too was beautiful though. The way that there was just like a soft, almost like wind, but just basically nothing. It was just so like, ooh. Because it's like that calm, but you know something bad is happening.
Yeah.
It's just, man.
It's crazy.
So,
Man, what a movie, guys. I definitely highly recommend it. Definitely get back to us. Email us what you thought about it. Reach out to us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at Real Review Media.
Yeah. Once again, one of the only times I almost wasn't happy to see Bubbles.
Right, the bubbles. That was so crazy.
He uses bubbles. For some reason, Thanos has a thing with bubbles where he likes to use them.
Star-Lord did have some trauma stuff happen to him. He was willing to kill the person he loved. He didn't want to. He was fighting it, and he pulled the trigger anyway, but reality stone,
Yeah.
So didn't happen, but then he found out that she died later on anyway at Thanos' hand.
And then he uses the bubbles again when she tries to kill herself. So,
rough, man. Yeah. It's a great movie, though.
Yeah. Good film.
Other than that, though, again, realreviewmedia@gmail.com. Reach us there, youtube.com/therealreview. Let us know your thoughts on all this stuff, because we definitely really like this movie. Definitely one of our highest rated ones of the year so far. Joel, anything else you want to add to that?
No. Go to see it again.
Yeah, I'm going to see it again. I definitely want to.
Yeah.
Actually, I want to see that. Maybe I can do a double feature. I want to see A Quiet Place again, too, because I love that movie. But Avengers, great movie. And anything else?
Nope, I'm good.
Well, thanks for joining us, guys. It's been real.
It's been real.